Okay, all the wedges are out. It's tacked all the way around. It's got some tension in it. We took, I mean, before there was a gap like that much, and you can still see it's a little wrinkly down there. We might be able to work on that later. But I'm thinking, you know, a skim coat of Bondo across here and blocking it out, you know, getting a from this way and this way up to the center. From here up. I think we'll get it looking nice. There's probably a lot of people that wouldn't do this, but I'm figuring the integrity of the roof, if you ever did get in a major accident, this will tie everything together. And, you know, if you did wipe out and smash around, you wouldn't want this sharp, jagged edge peeling your head off, even though you're supposed to have your seatbelts on. So, in the process of welding, a lot of people at body shops save time. They would have just left it a bunch of little spot welds, but the owner wanted it welded solid, and each time you weld, you get an increase in size. So the circumference grows, and you're going to get metal that's got to go somewhere. So now, and it's under tension now. It's not like a boing, boing, boing. It is solid. So I'm blocking this out, and where you see the low spots, we're going to put those studs on there and lift this up right here. See how I used this block with 80 grit, and I went around the whole thing, and then you'll see where it's touching, and then this is a low spot. So this is what caused the distortion, and we'll start here, and then we'll work our way up, and you gotta cut them off, and then when it touches from here to here, and it's all scratchy like this, then you know you'll use less Bondo. So you'll see that it's still a little low. I would rather have a little bit low. When we cut these off, you know, the Bondo will fill it. Once you get it up and then you're tapping it back and forth, you don't want to do that. We're just making sure that we don't have, you know, that thick a Bondo. Bondo at a 1/16 of an inch is perfectly fine. What I'm doing here is getting all the low spots. So this is what you get when you're dealing with old Bondo. There's chunks in it. You can't spread it. So when you're cheap, you just end up making more of a hassle for yourself. Tomorrow we'll put another coat on.
We installed a strap across the center there for a little bit of extra support. These will be seam sealed to dress them up. It's pretty tough to weld to this underskin.
So what you're looking at here is hours and hours of Bondo application. The professional that would have done this, first of all, they wouldn't even take in the car. But if they were going to do this, I'm sure a professional would have had it done in 2 hours. When you're not a professional and you don't have the eye for putting it on, you're chasing. You know, we put applications on and leveled it off with a board file. The high build primer has been applied, and then he blocked it out again with finer grit paper, and wherever you know, this is what he wanted to do, is find the spots that were the highest. And when you do it diagonally one way and diagonally the other way, you're getting it as flat as you can possibly get it. He's just coming through, and then he found some low spots. So the next time you do that, you hit the low spots first, and then reapply it all the way across, and then when you block it out, this is the best way you can feather it out. So when you look down the road, you know, on some people's car, especially a 69 Dodge Charger or something with flat sides, and you see this wavy look to it, they didn't block it out good enough. And it just shows up really bad. Anything that's a flat area, if you just fix one little spot and bondo it and try to feather it and you think, oh, that's good enough, it shows with paint. Everybody thinks, oh, the paint's gonna cover it. Paint doesn't cover it. Paint exposes it because now it's shiny and the light reflects back to you. You have to have that so feathered out, and the only way you can do it is with that high build primer. And you know, you say, well, they didn't have that back in the old days. They spent a lot more time to get a car perfect. This really makes it a lot faster, especially for inexperienced body guys that can't do body work as good as, you know, professional. It's like Bondo in a spray can, and you just lay it out, and it makes it easier to block out. What I'm down to now is 240 grit, and just trying to get rid of real fine imperfections. And it's all with the lighting. You gotta work in a place that has good lights. We don't have like a body shop that has tons of lights shining down. So we have to get lower than the roof line and kind of look at it like the horizon and check, and then you'll see low spots. That's how he's been putting on more and more high build primer and blocking it out. So you remember where that spot is, and then you fill that area. And then when you block it out, hopefully, you know, it's touching on the higher spots, and the lower spot doesn't get touched, and it starts filling in. You get less and less of a wave, and hopefully everything gets to be all a uniform contour, and you don't get a washboard look. Where we're working, this is really cold, and we gotta push one vehicle out. We work on other stuff. So while the thing's sitting outside, you wouldn't want moisture and stuff getting into regular primer like this. This primer actually absorbs moisture, and you get rusting going on through the primer. With the two-part epoxy primer, water, you know, repels off. Two-part epoxy primer isn't good for a final finish. I mean, a lot of guys will drive around with the rat rod look. You'd be better off putting like a satin clear over it, so then you can wash it. When you got just epoxy primer, it's like anytime you get a spot of oil in it, it sucks it up. Or if you touched it with some wax, it's in there, you can't get it out, and then you got this white spot. Whereas if it had the satin clear on there, then you could get it off. So what you'll notice is it's now in the flat black primer that we're going to leave it. It's a two-part epoxy. And if you look really hard, you know, into the shadow, we can see a few imperfections. But what took hours and hours of prep work took 5 minutes to paint. You know, the spraying the paint is the shortest part of the whole job. But that's what gives you the satisfaction. He never liked the looks of that sunroof, and now that it's gone, he's happy, and now we move on to the next job. We got one fender primed on the inside, and we'll do that on the outside tomorrow, and then we'll get the other one off, and we gotta make a patch. And once the whole front end is black and the hood is black, then we'll work our way down the doors, and he's ordering half quarters, and just keep working our way back. And then it'll be done.
The logical progression might be to do the windshield channels next, but kind of holding off on that because I want to wait to see how the car turns out before I start buying glass. Here's a look at the finished roof after the primer has dried. It's not perfect, needs a little bit more work, but it's definitely 1,000 times better than what it was.